Let's dive into the session. Hopefully you can see my slides. And really, so time freedom mastery has come about from, it's a terminology I've been using for a little while, but it sort of came about from this concept of constantly trying to look for ways to grow the business that didn't require me to do any more work. In fact, it's this ability to have this business that grows whether you're there or not. And I've shared with people before, I've taken 3 months off of every year for over a decade, but that shouldn't stop you having a business that's growing by 50% year on year. So absolutely, you can have both. So maybe at the moment you're kind of here because you're thinking, well, really the business isn't growing as quickly as I would like. And maybe you're kind of thinking, well, okay, but I don't have the time to be able to grow this business any quicker than it currently is. And so that's a time problem, isn't it? You know, if you could fix the time problem, then the business could be growing more. And maybe you know, you're in that situation where you're like, actually, I don't even have enough time to do all the jobs I know I need to do just to kind of keep everything ticking over. Maybe you're in that situation where there's just too much going on and you feel like you're the biggest bottleneck in the business and you're constraining the growth of the business. And perhaps also what's happening is you're gradually finding that you're falling out of love with the business and enjoying, you know, people get into a business because they have a passion for something and they love doing a particular thing and they love helping people in a particular way. And what they find is as the business grows and becomes a little bit more complex, they spend less and less time doing that sort of work and more time doing the sort of jobs they actually don't like and the sort of jobs that they really, you know, and they often fall out of love with the business. So I want you to imagine a time where you've got this exponential growth. You've got this, you know, we got to a point when I ran my financial planning business where we were generating 300 ideal client leads every year. But that wasn't with me going out and networking and all that sort of stuff. That was just happening through the systems that we built. But in addition to that, I want you to imagine, so not only are you getting all of this brilliant flow of new clients and new business, but what's also happening is you're spending as much time not working as you would like. And whether that's looking after your own health, whether that's spending time with the people that you care most about, whether that's spending time doing the activities that you care most about, then you've got this amazing work-life balance. So you don't have to work, you know, you can have as much time off really as you want. But when you're at work, it's more fun than fun. You're doing things like I love it when you know, my children say, "Oh, what are you doing today, Dad?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm off to play golf, or I'm flying off to LA, or I'm doing this or that." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you're working, are you?" I'm like, "Yeah," because you can design your business around the things that you actually love, and then work becomes more fun than fun, and then then it becomes amazing. So that's really where we're trying to get to. But you know, if you're currently struggling with insufficient time, and you really want to get to this point where you work less but you enjoy the business more, then you know, would you agree that you might need some new strategies to get you there? You know, if you do the same tomorrow as you did today, you'll get the same results as you've been getting. So you've got to do things differently, and that's what I'm here to try and inspire your thinking on today. Because you know, I've built and sold a few businesses and built some more since. And what I found is really that there's this kind of pattern that happens within each business, and that is that to start with, all of the growth was restricted by the founder. The founder's the one that's going out and networking. The founder's the one that's going out and closing. The founder's the one that's going out and doing anything that involves growth. And eventually, businesses work out how they can remove that barrier by essentially building an automated marketing machine. The problem, and we've got sessions on the automated marketing machine and the professional marketing magnet and all that sort of stuff, which I can share with you. But the problem that the people have that then start to crack the nut around the marketing piece then have a different problem, and they become the time for poor founder. They become the biggest bottleneck in their business because they've now got growth coming in, but everything needs to go through them, and that's what stops the business growing. And if we crack that, then we create this amazingly balanced business life. And there is a third stage, and that is really where the business is still managed by the founder, and really still everything still has to go through the founder. And that's where when you get to that stage, you've got a good business, but it's still not really a saleable or a very scalable business. And the final step is to get to a self-driving business where that business, the whole business grows, whether the founder is working or not. But we want to spend this today talking about that middle zone of how do we get some of that more of that time back so that we can have this balanced business life and only do the things that we love. Because like I said, what we find is that most founders end up being the biggest business bottleneck that they have. And whether that's you, I mean, obviously, if you're a one-man band business, clearly you are the owner of the biggest bottleneck in the business. But it doesn't matter when the businesses scale up. I see businesses that have got 20, 30, 40, 100 employees with a founder bottleneck problem. And so what we need to do is try and work out ways that we remove the founder and like almost make them redundant. That doesn't mean that they don't have to work or don't want to work, but it means that we give them the opportunity as to whether they work or not and whether the business grows without them. Because otherwise what ends up happening is that the founder becomes a busy fool. They're kind of running left, right and center, doing all of the different things, kind of getting involved in the different areas that they shouldn't be in. That drains their energy, it drains their enthusiasm. Whereas really what you want is a founder that is a focused achiever. They're only doing the 1 to 3 things that they love and they're really good at. And they're doing the activities that put them in flow state. And you'll know what I mean by flow state if I describe it as, I mean, it was talked about in a book by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called Flow. And it's that flow state is those activities where instead of draining your energy, they actually give you energy. You know, the sort of thing, speaking is that sort of thing for me. When I speak at conferences and workshops literally for 2 to 3 days straight. And people often ask me, isn't this exhausting? I'm like, no, actually, this gives me energy. I could stand and speak on a stage all day without being, and I do, without having any energy issues at all. An hour or so after I stopped, absolutely, I feel drained. But at the time, I'm in flow state. And you'll have probably 3 activities that really put you in flow state. And that's, there are activities where the time just seems to vanish because you genuinely love doing what you're doing. And so really that's what we're trying to get you to do in business, is to get you limiting everything you do to those flow activities. Because what it does is it starts to give you, it massively increases how quickly you get to world class. There's a psychological principle called 10,000 hours rule, which basically it was all around research by Anders Ericsson, and originally it was a study done in violinists, and what he found is the difference between world-class violinists and just very, very good violinists was 10,000 hours of practice. And it was 10,000 hours of intentional practice that got them there. I did a learning lunch on this exact subject for the members of the trusted team. But what we're trying to do essentially is get to the 10,000 hours as quickly as possible. So the more you can get rid of all of the other stuff and only do the few things that are really important and you really love, the quicker you get to world class at them. And so it's a really important principle. And there's never been a better time to do this. We've never had a better opportunity to reduce the amount of time we spend in the business because of AI. AI is this amazing opportunity and this amazing threat. You probably won't lose your job to an AI agent anytime soon, but what you will do is lose your job or your business to somebody that's embracing AI if you aren't. Because they have this massive advantage of achieving way more in way less time for a fraction of the cost. So they'll be able to outperform you in terms of speed. They'll be able to undercut you in terms of fees. They'll be able to deliver a more human interaction. And you may be thinking that's not right because it's AI. But when you automate the repetitive, you can exceptionalize the human stuff, and that's what we're trying to really trying to do. And we can use AI to make us stand out way more than we've ever done. I don't know if you remember the lady in the red dress from the Matrix, but we can use AI to make us stand out, and we can do it quicker and easier than ever before. So that's what we're going to be talking about over the course of this session. But for those of you that don't know me, you may be sort of saying, well, who is Charlie Redding? Why on earth would I listen to him? And you know, if you joined me in about 2010, you'd have found me, and this is sort of obviously an AI created image of that moment, but you'd have found me at a time where I was running Efficient Portfolio in my financial planning business, and it was going okay. I was renovating a barn into offices, and that was going okay, but both were full-time jobs, and obviously I only had time for one full-time job. I also had two young daughters and a wife. We'd not long moved house, and everything was too much. Basically, I was 3 stone heavier than I am today. I was working every hour God sends. I wasn't spending the time with my wife and daughters that I needed to. I was super stressed, and I realized that I needed to change this. And basically, I went on a journey that had me seeking out the best coaches in the world. And whether that was the business coaches, the life coaches, the technology coaches, the marketing coaches, the speaking coaches, I found the best coaches that I could find. I read literally hundreds of business books because I knew that success leaves clues. And what happened was, so if we go back to that barn, you see the bottom left was the redundant hay barn that we had. We lived in the farmhouse next door to that at the time. And we converted this into a beautiful office that wasn't just for Efficient Portfolio, it was for many other businesses. The business was called the Rural Business Community. And a few years later, I secured over £200,000 of EU funding for this business. And a few years later, I sold this business for about 100% return on my capital. And so this was a good success. During my time, and so obviously during that time I was running my financial planning business. Also during that time we founded a business that didn't just, like, what we wanted to do was turn our competition, other financial advisors, into our clients. So we built a power planning business called Efficient Power Planning. It still exists today. It's a thriving business today. It's under a different brand. I won't tell you which brand it is, but it's still thriving today. And so I built and sold that business on that journey as well. But all of this was happening at the same time as now me running Efficient Portfolio, which went from this struggling business where I was working every hour and, you know, we were a very average business, to becoming one of the top financial planning practices in the UK. And all of those 3 businesses were running simultaneously, and yet we built this business and we were getting 50% year-on-year growth whilst being in this business. And then in 2015, I had a book published, my first book published, called The Dream Retirement: How to Secure Your Money and Retire Happy. And that book led on to a bit of a roller coaster of success for us as a business. So I started getting featured on national radio, on TV, on the cover of industry magazines, on stages all around the world. And Efficient Portfolio became known as the top financial planning practice in the Midlands. I had 4 books published on my financial planning journey. And in 2023, I sold this business. And at the time, we had been getting, COVID years aside, we were getting 50% year-on-year growth, but I was having 3 months of every year off. And so at this moment in time, I've actually built and sold 3 businesses in a decade where I've had 3 months of every year off to travel the world with my family. And not only that, is that the most amazing thing, because we've now had these incredible experiences all over the world doing the coolest things together. But at the same time as having those 4 books published, building and selling 3 businesses, I also managed to fix the fact that I was horribly overweight and couldn't, like, literally run up the stairs, and went from that point to qualifying for and completing the Ironman World Championship. So I had to do a number of Ironmans to get to the point where I qualified, and then to be able to complete arguably the single toughest day, the toughest single day race on the planet in the heat and humidity of Kona, Hawaii. So not only did I fix the time problem allowed me to fix the business problems and my own health problem, and to build amazing relationships with my family. And because of that, and because of my interest in endurance sport, as that built over time, I also created the Business of Endurance podcast, where we've interviewed over 150 of the top endurance athletes, coaches, and adventurers on the planet. And then that became my 5th book, which is The Business of Endurance. And then finally, just to finish this off, so since selling Efficient Portfolio, I've actually set up 3 businesses. I've set up the Hub and Spoke, which is a business hub and cafe by week, cycling cafe at the weekend. That's in Rutland, and touch wood, I'm about to sell that business. So that'll be my 4th exit. I'd love to say that was as profitable as the other ones, but let's just put that one down as a learning experience rather than a profitable one. I have another business which I only sit on the leadership team of, but I founded it, and it runs without me entirely, other than half a day a quarter. Half a day a quarter. And that's a business that helps financial advisors with their power planning and admin, and it's called Accelerate Advisor Solutions. And like I said, so that business just runs without me. And the main business, and the reason I'm here to talk to you today, is a business called The Trusted Team. And this is where we help people in professional services firms grow their business whilst working less and enjoying more. And it's really about helping them build a business that they could sell if they want to in the future, but in the meantime, it's a scalable business and a business that you love being in. And absolutely, you too can do this whilst taking 3 months of every year off, and you can create a business that grows whether you're there or not. And the reason it's actually not that difficult to do that when you put the right principles into practice is because almost everything you currently do is inessential. Most of the things you currently do, you don't need to be doing yourself. They might need to be done by the business. Some of them, I'd argue, probably don't need to be done at all, perhaps. But almost everything you do is inessential. And so what I want to do is dive into a framework that I used to do a few different sessions, but it's called Time Freedom Mastery. And I want to dive into I want to kind of build this presentation around this framework, because it's a really important thinking framework to allow you to think through how can you get your time back? How can you have a business that grows faster whether you're there or not? And the first principle is all about the team that you build around you. And the best story I remember hearing around how this is done so well is the story of Sir Richard Branson. So Sir Richard Branson obviously has many business successes, many multi-million pound businesses, and when he was in a boardroom meeting, at the point of which he's now got multiple successful businesses, he's in a board meeting, and he tells the story of where his CFO says, "Richard, would you mind stepping outside a minute?" And Richard said, no, not at all. And they step outside the boardroom, and the CFO says, "Richard, would I be right in saying that you don't know the difference between net and gross profit?" And Richard's like, "Yeah, you're right, I don't." And he says, "Okay, so let's think about this as the ocean. Every fish in the ocean is the gross profit. What's in your net is what you get to keep, which is the net profit." And Richard's like, "Oh, right, yeah, great, I get that." And they wander back into the boardroom. He's built multiple multi-million pound businesses without knowing the difference between net and gross profit. And that's because he was brilliant at building a team around him. He could focus on the 1 or 2 things that he was really good at, and he could get somebody else or something else doing absolutely everything else. And the best example I can give you of that in sport is rugby. Because the rugby, I think the team on a rugby field best translates to the team in a business. Because if you think about the difference between the different players in a rugby team, it's quite extreme. You've got the prop forwards, which are these huge guys that can sort of outdrink anyone on the planet. They're full of muscle, they're not like particularly quick, but they're really strong, and let's be honest, if you get into a fight, they're the first people you want to have stood behind you. So these props are big, muscly, but slow players. And then you've got the opposite of that. You've got the wingers. They're typically like slight but really quick, and they're kind of trying to dodge any fights possible. And then I suppose the middle ground of all of this is the scrum half, and they sit between one at the forwards and the backs, and they're the little guy that's very good at starting the fight, but very quick to wriggle out of them once the props jump in. But these roles are very, very different. And if you try to put a prop on the wing or try to put a winger in the scrum, it just wouldn't work. And the business team is very much the same as that. So we want to build this team where we're all playing to our strengths and we're recruiting people that fill the right roles for us. And one of the things that people often feel guilty about when they say, well, you're going to delegate all of your bad jobs, all of your rubbish jobs to somebody else. That's not very fair on the other person, is it? They get all the rubbish. But one thing you need to bear in mind is that one person's rubbish is another person's treasure. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So if you gave me a big spreadsheet and said, please can you look through this spreadsheet, check it for errors, build a whole load more stuff into it, organize it better, like honestly, I'd rather pull my toenails out than do that job. If it's just the most soul destroying job that you could give me. Debs, on the other hand, who used to work for me at Efficient Portfolio, she'd get up early to come into work to do that same spreadsheet job. So by finding the right people that are really good at excelling at things that you're not good at, you're giving away your rubbish, but they're seeing it as their treasure. And that is how you can build an amazing team through and get your time back by doing it. And what ends up happening is, let's be honest, Debs was far better at that job than I was. So you find people that are actually better at the things that you need them to do than you are. And often that's not easy when you're the founder. And really the team's job is to create this protective field around you. They're protecting you as the asset, trying to minimize everything that you do, trying to maximize the impact of the things you do whilst minimizing the time it takes. Because what we're going to find is the most important things actually don't take up that much time often. So we just got to free you up and you can do loads more of them and have a dramatically more profitable business. And one of the ways that we do this with our team is a principle that's talked about in the excellent book, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And that is to be able to delegate something to somebody else in your team. You do it first, you document it, and then you delegate it. And really, that's the key message in this brilliant book. Is do a job first, then document it, and then delegate it. Of course, if you've already delegated it, you might only want to do it once more to do that. And then what you do is you can build out this great playbook, and of course AI can help you on this journey massively. You help you build out these amazing systems so that once it's delegated, it's done the same to the same high standard every time. At the Trusted Team, we call these outstanding operations, and we lead members of the Trusted Team through a process called the Outstanding Operation Optimizer. It's basically about building processes backstage, which means that every business, every time you delegate something, it's then done to that same high standard time and again. And you can use amazing AI tools like Loom to help you on this, and Synthesia to build engaging tutorials for people to learn from and watch. So AI can really speed up this journey for you now. But a couple more principles I just want to share on this team topic that I think are worth sharing. The first is that when you think you can fill half of somebody's time, or another person's time, it's time to make that recruitment step. Because often I sat there in the past going, oh, do I recruit the next person? I think, I don't know that I could fill all of their time. Whereas the advice I was given, which was really powerful for me, is if I think I can fill 50% of the next person's time, we recruit. And the reason that works so well is, firstly, it gives you when they start a new job, they're never going to do that task as quickly as you who've been doing it, or somebody that's been doing it for like 10, 15 years. So they're going to have to take time to learn it. They're going to have to take time to get up to speed so that they can do it quickly. But also the reason that you want the 50% capacity is because what then happens is, once they've taken over that role and they're only using half of their time to do that role, you can then look at other things that they can take from you, or take from other members of the team to free you and them up so that that business can grow even faster. So every time you think you can fill half a person's time with the work, you recruit the next person. And really, it's the key to, and what you really want to be doing is delegating as much as you possibly can to free you up as the owner. So, for example, I used to look after about 150, 160 clients of the efficient portfolio clients. I delegated all but 10 of those to other advisors. And the reason I could do that, and the kickback I always hear from this is, oh yeah, but the clients want you, they've built up a relationship with you. Absolutely, that's true, until you tell them why it's to their advantage that they're going to be serviced in a different way. This advisor is much better at your specific need than me. This advisor has much more time to be able to dedicate to you than me. This advisor is able to visit you in this particular environment, whereas for me, you can't do that. Or what's in it for them is the key message when you're delegating to other people in your business. And really, even though I still looked after 10 of those clients, actually I only looked after a small fraction of what happened for those 10 clients. So that's one really powerful way to delegate this stuff to your team, is to what's in it for them. The other really powerful way is to give the client a client relationship manager. Have a first point of contact for that client, so they know every time I need to speak to somebody in the business, I speak to that person, and that person goes out and into the other, maybe speaks to the advisor, maybe speaks to Charlie, maybe speaks to the finance team, whatever it is, but they have a central point of contact. And having that client relationship manager as that first point of contact allows the delegation to work so much more powerfully, and the client still has this consistent relationship. Okay, and sort of the final thing on this is really what you want to be doing is building this around a full leadership team. A leadership team is the most brilliant way to build out a saleable and scalable business, a business that people do want to buy. And if you can build out an amazing leadership team, this is where you'll see the business turn from the balanced business life to the self-driving business. And we haven't got time to go into this today, but the leadership scale up is how we at the Trusted Team help businesses build that approach. But I will share with you at the end of this session how you can learn and go through the leadership scale up. So I'll share with you more about that at the end. The next step in time freedom mastery is the intensity with which you do the things that are important. And Desmond Douglas was a famous table tennis player in the, I think it was in the 80s. And he was known for having the fastest reactions on the table tennis circuit. And so they thought it'd be really interesting as a science experiment to study how much quicker Desmond Douglas's reactions were than every person, or than the average person. And so they did this whole series of tests on him. And the table tennis player that was known for his lightning quick reactions, when tested, actually had slower than average reaction time. So how can that make sense? How can Desmond Douglas, known for his lightning quick table tennis reactions, actually have slower than average reaction times when scientifically tested? Well, what they did was they thought this was really intriguing, and we need to dig into why that would be the case. And what they found was that when Desmond Douglas was playing table tennis as a kid, he played table tennis in a room that was slightly too small for a table tennis table. And therefore what he had to do, he was forced to stand closer to the back of the table than he would have ordinarily done. And what that meant was that he was forced to start to read the movement of the opposite player, so that before the opposite player had even made contact with the ball, he knew what that shot was going to be and where it was going to be going, so he could play it. So he didn't have lightning quick reactions, but because he'd spent 10,000 hours practicing too close to the back of the table, he'd learned to become a world-class table tennis player. And actually, when you read into the story of Bill Gates and why he became the huge business success that he was, it's this same 10,000 hours rule again. Because if the story of Bill Gates is quite amazing in that a combination of being pretty much the only school on the planet that had a computer where you could go and do some programming. Plus, his mum had a friend who ran a business programming company that in his free time he could go and spend time programming and testing and all of that sort of stuff. And then at the time that he was turning 18, he was presented this incredible opportunity. Firstly, he's probably one of the top 5 people on the planet at that moment in terms of the amount of time he's been able to spend programming a computer. But secondly, it's the perfect time because it's the dawn of the home computer. And it's all of that. So he got to his 10,000 hours worth of practice way quicker than everyone else because he'd found himself in this quite unique position. And really, it's not 10,000 hours of any practice or anything. So, for example, you don't become a Formula One driver by driving around London in a black cab for 10,000 hours. It's got to be deliberate practice. It's got to be practice that stretches you each time. But one of the reasons why I became a really successful financial planner was I got rid of everything else except being in front of clients for a period of time, for a number of years. And all I did was spend my time in front of clients, and therefore I got my 10,000 hours of practice spending time, interviewing clients, understanding clients, explaining concepts to clients, getting to the heart of what was really important to them. I got to that 10,000 hours really, really, much quicker because I'd got rid of everything else. And so it's really powerful. If we can do this stuff at intensity, we can get success so much more quickly, and we can get to world class more quickly. And one of the ways that we can do this is by blocking out time for important things. So for example, you might block out the first 90 minutes of every day. I'm only going to do this task. This is the most important thing I do. I'm only going to do this task. I actually did it for 3 mornings a week. So 3 mornings a week, I only see clients. I won't go into now why I didn't see clients in the afternoons, but I do another session called the timing template on that. I didn't do it Monday mornings because that was all about spending time with the leadership team of the different businesses I was running. Definitely not a Friday morning. That's not a good day wasn't for me. But ultimately, if I'd wanted to spend 5 days a week working full time at full intensity, I could have done that even more quickly. But blocking out specific time for the most important activities is a really powerful concept. And what you'll get to that 10,000 hours that much more quickly. Now, I share with you this slide, a slightly different version of this slide though, again, because the 10,000 hours to excel is absolutely true, and there's so many examples of it. You can see it on the left here, whether it's Judith Polgar, the amazing chess player that they recently made a Netflix documentary on, whether it's the ice hockey players, whether it's the Beatles, whether it's Ed Sheeran, whether it's Tiger Woods, whether it's Serena Williams, whether it's, they're all examples of the 10,000 hours rule. But actually, the other reason I shared you this slide in this way is because the whole presentation I did on the 10,000 hours rule was built by AI. I knew what I wanted to talk about. It put all the slides together so I could just do the thing that I was best at, and building the slides I didn't need to do that. I was best to deliver that session, but I didn't need to put all of those slides together. And so we can do this with AI as well as by delegating to humans. And there's another type of time that we need to block out, and that is white space and free time. So what doesn't go in the diary gets sucked up by other things. So therefore, booking some white space between meetings to give you a bit of your brain a chance to recover, booking time to go to the coffee shop and get a coffee. Those sorts of things are actually just as important as booking the focus time so that you've got time to recover. Another piece of AI that really can help you on this journey is note takers. AI note takers just add so much value to what we do today. whether it's in turning the transcriptions into other things, whether it's allowing you to focus more intently on what the human in front of you is saying. So many brilliant ways to do that. If you're not using an AI note taker already, please, please, please just embrace this. It's incredibly powerful. It doesn't really matter which one, but if you're in physical meetings, you may need the Claude device as opposed to Otter or Zoom or whatever. And there's so many benefits to building out some structure into your diary as well. You know, yes, your team know what you're doing and when they should book meetings in for you, and your clients know that you only do meetings on these days, so they know when they need to do it. But it's also much better for your family and your friends. You know, they know, all right, you know, on a Monday morning he's always doing this, or on a Friday afternoon he's always playing golf. So you know, whatever it is, you building that structure. We do a whole other session called the Happy Week, which is kind of a more detailed version of that particular concept. But yeah, we want to use AI to exaggerate this and move us forward so that we can. So we can focus on those one or two things that are really important to us. But there's another problem that founders have, and that is that they have this congestion of different ideas. So many founders suffer with the fact that they continually come up with amazing ideas, and it sort of clogs the brain up. So for example, if you are working in like Google Chrome, for example, and you've got 150 tabs open, how well does Google Chrome work? Not very well. If you've got 15 different programs open in your laptop, you know, the laptop starts to grind slower and slower and slower. Our brain's the same. So one of the ways that we can free up ourselves and our thinking to focus on the one activity that's really important, really intensely, is using a tool that I call, or have called for a long time, the Limitless Life Planner. We're about to turn this into a full-blown app. We're testing the beta version at the moment. But one of the powerful things about having a tool like this is when you come up with an idea, or you know that something's bouncing around in your head that you've got to do at some point in the, you know, next week, next month, next quarter, whatever. The brain, when you write something down, the brain sees it the same as being done. So it frees up your working memory to focus on the stuff that's important at that moment. If you don't write it down, then it's still bouncing around going, oh, I've got to do this, got to do this. So the Limitless Life Planner is almost like the external hard disk for your brain. It frees it up so your brain can focus on what's important, and you know that you'll still come back to it at the most important time, whether that's next week, next month, next quarter, next year. It's also a tool that we use to help you build out the most amazing limitless goals, but also then build this, because you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So it's the tool that helps you decide what actions do I need to take and what habits do I need to install to actually achieve those goals. And at the center of all of that, you've got the values. You're making sure everything's aligned with your values, because if your goals aren't aligned to your values, then you won't be motivated to achieve them. So it's an amazing tool. I'm just going to show you this video, and I'm going to show you this video for two reasons. One is I delegated building this video to AI instead of getting a human to do it. So you can take that from it. But also, I think it's amazing how good. And you know, hopefully from that you'll see how I mean, it's not perfect, but it's amazing compared to like the fact that this took me 5 minutes to write the prompt to create this video, and think how much it would have cost time and money just a couple of years ago. But I also want to share it with you because I want you to understand a bit more about how freeing up the brain can help you become the founder that you wanted to be.
Are you an overworked service business founder, trapped inside your own company? You've built a business, but became the bottleneck. The trusted team created the Limitless Life Planner app, proven coaching frameworks in your pocket. Our mission? Inspire 1 million founders to double their business and double their time off. You shouldn't sacrifice sanity for success. Download the Limitless Life Planner today and transform into the strategic CEO you were meant to be.
So delegating that to AI, and it probably cost like I said, it took 5 minutes to write the prompt. It probably cost £20 in AI tokens. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? So that's one other thing that you want to do, and another way that you can do this is through creating automated marketing assets. So, for example, we have an online session called the Automated Marketing Machine, and building out systems that constantly generate those ideal clients is another way that you could do that in your business. Okay, so the next stage, after, if we've thought about how can we do the one or two things that are really important at a much higher intensity to get us to world class as quickly as possible, the next thing to do is think about how can we maximize our time, because nature abhors a vacuum. If we don't schedule stuff, it doesn't get done, and so therefore it's really important that we block out the most important things. And this sort of is an extension of what I was talking about earlier, but if you want to be the best you possible, and that's best you at business, best you from a health and well-being point of view, best you as a parent or husband or wife or whatever that is, then you've got to put the face mask on yourself first. You've got to look after yourself first, and that's about focusing on your time and what's important to you and what's important to the business and getting the most out of you. And there's a rule called the Pareto principle, and basically it comes from Wilfredo Pareto, who noted, and it's basically from the 1940s, it was noted that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. But what he also observes was that 20% of the pea pods in his garden produced 80% of the peas. And he just saw this thing time and again, and it was popularized in business by Richard Koch's books, where he talks about the 80-20 rule, amongst other things. And essentially what he's saying is we need to eliminate 80% of what we do to 5x the income. Because if 80% of our earnings comes from what we do 20% of the time, if we can eliminate what we do in 80% of our time, then we can get 5 times the results in our business. And so this is what we really want to be doing, is we want to be using delegation and to uplift what we do. And one of the amazing examples I can pick up from the Business of Endurance podcast on this is the story of Mark Allen. Now, Mark Allen was one of the best, well, actually, he was voted the best endurance athlete of all time. He won the Ironman World Championship 6 times. He won everything else in the world of triathlon multiple times. But when I interviewed him, so he won his first World Championship in 1989. So fairly old school. So when I interviewed him, I didn't expect to be having a conversation about AI. But that's exactly what we ended up talking about, because what he shared with me was a system that is actually the system that allowed me to qualify for the World Championships myself. And that was this system called TriDot. And TriDot is where the AI builds the training program for the athlete, freeing up the coach to have the human conversation that they're best positioned to have. So historically, he would have been building the training plan for each of the athletes he now coaches. But in a world where we've got all of this amazing data being collected on our watches, he couldn't actually do an amazing job of that, because he was never going to look at all the data that was being gathered. Whereas AI is amazing at looking at all of that data and then turning that into a training plan for the athlete, having looked at, how much sleep are they getting, how are they recovering from the previous sessions, how is their performance improving, what's their current 5K time, all of that stuff the AI is amazing at. And then where the human is amazing is to pick up the phone and have a conversation and go, yeah, but I know you had a row with the wife last night, so let's just dial down what the plan says by 20% tomorrow, because otherwise you just, there's so much stress going on, you risk getting injured. That's where the human is amazing. So the AI is freeing up the human to do an even more amazing job. And ultimately, if you listen to that episode of Mark on the podcast, he'll tell you it's the human conversation that puts him in flow state, not the copying, pasting to build a training plan, which is what's now being taken over by the AI. So we already talked about this flow state being those activities that actually give you energy rather than draw your energy away. It feels like time's flowing. Now, if we look at the top 3 things that give you that put you in flow state, within your business, I am willing to bet those 3 things are the most profitable, most powerful things that you do in your business. So not only are they the 3 things that you probably love the most, but they're the 3 things that also make you the most profitable. They're the only 3 things you should actually be doing. If we think about the Pareto principle, they are the 20%. So we need to try and design our business so we get rid of everything except those. And that's what we're trying to get to. And so for me, it's speaking, leading businesses, and planning, whether that's planning the business or planning the speaking stuff. Really, everything else should be done by somebody else in my business. And historically, that meant you needed to recruit a big team like I did at Efficient Portfolio. Nowadays, actually, you don't have to recruit anyone. You can just outsource everything if you want to, whether that's through Fiverr, Upwork, onlinejobs.ph, Indeed.ph. There's so many opportunities to just have a team that are fully outsourced now if you want to do that. And of course, there's industry specific versions of that. And Accelerate Advisor Solutions, which is one of the businesses that I helped found. Like I said, I don't work in this business, but that's an example of a business like this for financial advisors. But I know there are plenty out there for accountants, solicitors, and other professional services firms. So this is Matt here that's now got the waiting list of ideal clients that I think I shared earlier, or I might not have done because I did a session earlier that I might not have done anyway. The other way you can delegate stuff so that you can maximize what you do is by building products to delegate to. So we used to do a lot of estate planning for clients, which was writing wills and creating trusts and LPAs and all that kind of stuff to help them leave a legacy for their next generation. But we knew that a legacy actually was much more than that. It was also the family tree. It was the values. It was giving with a warm hand. It was the messages that you wanted to send with the gifts. It was also what do you want to happen to your pets, and what memberships have you got that would need cancelling, and what happens in the first 14 days before the will's even read, and all this sort of stuff. And it was all stuff that I would love to help the clients with, but we didn't have the time to do it. So I wrote a book, the Life Legacy Gift, that basically was that journey. And we could give that book to our clients. We could add way more value. They could actually also give it on to other people, but it added way more value so that I didn't have to do it. I wrote it once. It helped every client thereafter. And one of the amazing things about using AI here is that you can do something you've done once and repurpose it into many, many other things. So for example, I gave the example of the Business of Endurance book, and that book is basically the lessons of 150 episodes of interviews where we've got the transcripts. So we can very easily take the transcripts, give it all to AI, saying what the common themes across all of the nutrition, for example, and it can pull out all of those themes, and it can actually write a lot of the book for you. So one of the people that we coached in the trusted team, a guy called Bhavesh, financial advisor, he was actually retiring from the city in his early 40s and becoming a financial advisor, and he wanted to fast track that business. I explained how important a book would position him as the expert and how it would differentiate him from his clients. So through our help, he ideated, created, and published his book in just 3 months. It took me 3 years to write The Dream Retirement. It took him 3 months with our guidance and using AI in the way that we teach people to use it to write his book. I actually have produced a book. I haven't published it yet because I'm on version 8 at the moment. But my only ever fiction book I produced in a day using AI the way I teach people to use it now. It's unbelievable what you can achieve in such a small amount of time. And so the way you want to be thinking about this is, there's a famous saying in Silicon Valley, which is minimum viable product, and the book The Lean Startup made it famous. But for this principle, you want to be thinking, what's your minimum viable input for any one project? How can you only do the absolute minimum and then have the most maximum effect? And in fact, the trusted team, we talk about a principle called magnification mastery. Now, effectively, magnification mastery is, instead of doing something once and it helping one client, how do you do something once and it helps every client thereafter forevermore? And so really this is the secret with the founder, is to get them doing something once and it helping many people many times, as opposed to having them do anything that they do once and it only helps one person. Through this magnification mastery, we actually managed to halve the time it took to service our clients, whilst increasing the perceived value that they got and also increasing the fees that they paid us. So yeah, magnification mastery is an amazing opportunity to do this better. And then finally, eliminate. How do we eliminate our way to time freedom mastery? Well, Steve Jobs is a great example of this. When he came back to Apple, having been booted out the first time, he came back to Apple that had literally hundreds of different versions of different products. And so what he did was he cut it right back to just 4 products. He got rid of everything except 4 products. And it was by doing that it freed him up to be able to create the iPhone, the iPod, the iPad, and then the watch as well. And so by eliminating so much, it freed him up to be able to have a far, far, far more successful business, and become the most valuable business on the planet at the time. And there's a recent study on the brain that's found a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's located in the front part of the brain, and it's essentially the primary muscle of willpower or tenacity or self-control, and it acts like a hub for managing cognitive control, monitoring conflicts between desires and actions, and driving the will to preserve. And ultimately, like any other muscle, it gets tired. So one of the things that we need to eliminate to build up time freedom mastery is decisions, or unnecessary decisions. Because actually the most successful founders become successful founders because they're very good at making important decisions. And one of the ways that they do that is by eliminating the need to make less important decisions. So if we go back to Steve Jobs and we pick 6 photos of Steve Jobs over the different decades that he worked as part of Apple, right from the very start right to the very end, there's one common theme, isn't there? And you've probably identified it already. He's wearing exactly the same jumper every time. Now, I would assume it's not the same jumper, because it would probably smell quite bad and be fairly threadbare by the... But the point is, he eliminated one decision he needed to make in the morning. What am I going to wear today? Because he knew that meant that he hadn't used any energy to that was going to drain his willpower muscle. There's another reason or another way to eliminate a lot of decisions, or make them easier to make. And that is best summed up by a term: will it make the boat go faster? So when I decided to sell Efficient Portfolio, we set the goal. Originally, we set the goal as a 5-year goal, and we set the number as a 5-year number. We managed to actually do it in 18 months. And we still got the 5-year number, which is amazing. And actually, that was all because we built a business that was both saleable and scalable. So I was able to sell the business for double the market value because of the way that we'd built it. But one of the benefits of setting that really clear goal was it made every decision really much easier. Because when you looked at every decision, like, shall we go off and build this new system? Well, will it help us sell the business in 5 years? No, therefore, no, it won't make the boat go faster, forget it. Will having, this ISO standard help us sell the business more? Yes, right, we do that. Really, really easy to make decisions when you've got very, very clear goals, and when you know what will or won't make the boat go faster in the direction that you want. So that's one way to eliminate things that may or may not be kind of like shiny objects. You remember the dog in Up that is, yes, I will pay attention to you, squirrel. That's the problem that most founders have. So by having really clear goals, you know exactly where you're going. You can eliminate the stuff that isn't important. And sometimes eliminating all of the working in the business is what you need to do for a period of time. So both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were famous for going off and having think weeks. Steve Jobs typically went off to India and did meditation retreats. And Bill Gates famously twice a year goes off to his cabin with nothing but books and white papers and just reads and thinks and reads and thinks. And eliminating everything else but that has led to both of those people becoming two of the most successful business owners of all time. Because every time you say yes to one thing, you need to remember that you're also saying then no to probably 20 other things. So we need to be much better at saying no to things and saying yes to only really important things. And this applies to delegating stuff to other people. And one of the challenges that people have when they're delegating to other people is a challenge called the endowment effect. And it's a challenge that doesn't just affect people when they're delegating. It affects anything where they already own or already are doing a thing and they need to get rid of it. And the way that the endowment effect works, and you may or may not have heard of it, it comes from a research done by Nobel Prize winning Daniel Kahneman. And essentially the study that they did was they had some coffee mugs. And for some people, they gave them a mug and then said, how much would you sell that mug for? And for some people, they didn't give them a mug. They just said, here's the mug. How much would you pay to buy this mug? Exactly the same mugs. What they found was the people who now owned the mug, to sell it, they would only be willing to sell it for $7. Whereas the people that didn't own the mug, to buy it, would only be willing to pay about $3 for it. But it's exactly the same mug. And the reason is the endowment effect. When you already own something, you don't want to get rid of it. And it's the same when it comes to delegating. You want to get rid of stuff, but actually you don't, because you've always done it and it's mine. I always do that thing. So one of the ways I would apply this principle is through the reset test. Now, I'll give you an example of the reset test. The reset test is, so when I had a client come in that had like 15 shares, some of which were inherited by granny, some of which were inherited from granddad, and then maybe like 3 pensions, one of which their mate sold them when they were working at Allied Dunbar, and one of which was from a previous company, and one of which they bought off the bank, and then they've got this unit trust that kind of they bought off another person. And then they look at all of this and they go, oh yeah, but I don't really want to get rid of it all. The way I would talk to them is say, okay, so let's apply the reset test. If all of this was switched to cash, you didn't own any of these assets, would you rebuy this portfolio as it currently is? And they'd look at me stupid and go, no, of course I wouldn't. It's chaos. It's useless. You go, well, that's no reason to then keep it, is it? So the reset test is a great way of thinking about this. And we can think about this in delegation as well. We think about the reset test as, if I was to rebuild this business and I currently did nothing in this business, but now I was going to start from scratch, would I design it with me doing the things that I'm doing? Absolutely not. No way would I do it. Right. Well, in that case, we need to get rid of it and change that now. And one of the ways that we can apply this principle of thinking is of eliminating other things that aren't important is the approach to our fees and bringing in, and I suppose ultimately why I mention this now is because the reset test and the endowment effect are ways of articulating how stupid our brain works sometimes. It makes no sense that we're willing to pay more for a mug or pay less for a mug than somebody's willing to sell that same mug for when it's exactly the same mug. When we apply, when we talk about our fees, and we do this at the Trust team through a principle called the fee value framework, which is about building a value-based fee structure. The brain still works in a stupid way. So how we articulate our fees to our clients and how we articulate the value that we create for them through our fees has a massive impact on how happy they are in paying the fees that we want to charge and we're right to charge. So it's the same sort of principle as the reset test and as the endowment effect. So if you're thinking about something like, should I do it, shouldn't I do it, one of the processes you can use to help you on your thinking here is think about it as, would I do it? If it was tomorrow, would I be happy doing it? Because sometimes you think, oh, I'll do it, because it's 6 months away or 3 months away, I don't mind doing it. If it was tomorrow though, like, would you still do it? And if that's not the case, then you're best getting rid of it now and finding a way to get rid of it. One of the things that I would really encourage you to do to really kind of get your time back and gain your focus is to never give out your mobile phone to any clients. It's like the quickest way, or even your direct line. I see it with, like, for example, my own solicitor has her direct line on the website. Now, of course, when I'm working with her and she's currently doing the paperwork for me to sell the hub and spoke. So I think it's great that I can just pick the phone up and speak to her immediately. And being selfish, yeah, at that moment, I think that's great. But that means that anyone else, while she's working on the legal document she's supposed to be drafting for me, anyone else, including the company that wants to sell some sort of cleaning product, and the kind of, anyone wants to cold call her, or any client or any prospect or anyone else can interrupt her way of thinking. Now, if I was at the dentist and my dentist took a call in the middle of his work, while he'd got a drill in my mouth, I would be fuming. So why is this any different? So don't give your mobile out. Don't give your direct line out. Let people go through a business process that means that somebody else is handling that before it comes to you. Honestly, they actually in the end get a better service because you can concentrate on what's important as opposed to just answering the phone when it rings. And one of the biggest drains on business productivity is, I believe, the inbox, and eliminating time spent managing your inbox is a key thing. I've had for over 10 years, I've had my inbox managed by a PA. It's actually now managed by AI. So I use a tool called fixer.ai to manage my inbox, and a combination of that and some rules and automations really basically does everything that the PA was doing previously on my inbox, which is amazing. So by not eliminating these things, what is this really costing you? Is it costing you spending more time on a beautiful beach? Is it costing you making more money so that you could actually afford to do the more time on the more beautiful beach? Really, this is what's important, isn't it? So I want to reflect back and think, look, if you want to get time, freedom, mastery, if you want to get your time back but have a more profitable business, you've got to build this brilliant team around you. Think the rugby team, I've got this position in the business, but I need these different players to solve these different problems for me so that they're going to excel in ways that I don't excel. Then what that frees us up to do is build that intensity to really focus on getting that 10,000 hours to make you world class at the thing it is that you're best at. And then we really want to maximize that by only doing those 3 tasks that put you in flow state, that are the things that you both love and you're really good at. And to do more of that, we then eliminate everything else. Everything else in that 80% goes. And whether that's delegated to a person, whether that's delegated to AI, whether it's completely stopped within the business, whether it's, maybe it's something you sell on to a different business, it could be a part of the client bank. Whatever it is, you eliminate that, and then that frees you up to do it even more. So to work through this process, I'm going to give you a tool to go through. Now, I'm not going to get you to do this while we're on this session, because it actually can take quite a lot of time to do. But it doesn't take, okay, that's not the right way of saying it. It doesn't take a long time to do, but the setup takes you about a week to get right. Not a week's worth of work, but a week of just scribbling down each different task that you do. So let me explain. It's a tool called the Delegate Compound, and it starts with a one-pager called the job list. So what you need to do here is you go through the job list over the course of a week. Now, for those of you that are already members of the trusted team, you've already done the job list before, so it's much quicker and easier to do this. But if you haven't done this before, it's going to take you a bit of time to do the job list. And the best way to do that is just have it printed out on your desk. And at the start and end of each day, you go, what tasks am I going to be doing today? And you just scribble those down, and it might be checking your emails. I've got this type of meeting. I've got this conversation with this type of person. I've got to do this thing for the accounting part. I've got whatever it is. I've got to read this letter. I've got to write this plan, write that, whatever, everything goes down there that's vaguely work related. And then at the end of the week, or as soon as you think you've got everything listed down, what you want to do is you want to take everything that's on that list and put it into one of 4 boxes on the Delegate Compound. So you'll see box A is the things that you excel at, so you're really good at and you love. So everything that you love and is really good at is in box A. In box B, it's things that you really love, but you're only okay at. You're not great at. You're not amazing at, but you do love them. Then you've got box C, and box C are the things that you don't really like. You kind of dislike them, but you're actually very good at. And then finally, you've got box D. And box D are the things that you're not great at and you dislike, or you don't like much. And you've got to put everything from the job list into one of those 4 boxes. And then once you've done that, you start with box D and you list out everything that's in box D, and you find a way of getting rid of and delegating that role to somebody else. And then you work out what's the first step in doing that, who's involved in that step, and by when am I going to have that happen. Now, when you get to the end of box D, depending on how much time and work you've now created for yourself, you move on to box C. List out the things in box C, right? Okay, what are those? How am I going to delegate those? What's the first action? And depending on how many things you've got and how long that's going to take, you then move on to box B. Now, probably if this is the first time you've done this, you're only going to maybe get through box D and box C. But what you'll find is this is a process you should go through every year. I would go through this absolutely every year. And every year I'd be sitting down thinking, well, I've done this 5 years on the trot. Surely there's nothing else I can delegate. And yet what you find is either there's a bit of creep and things creep back in because the business has grown, or because somebody's left the business, or because of another complication. And you find that things creep back into your tasks that shouldn't be there or that could be delegated. But the other thing that happens is you start to break down bigger tasks into multiple steps. So what you might find is, oh, actually, right, well, let's say writing this particular financial plan is actually really 3 steps, and I only like the final step. So therefore I can give step 1 and 2 away. Or like meeting a brand new client, I don't really like all of that chit chat at the start and going through all of the terms of business and all of that sort of stuff. So I could break that meeting into 2, and actually the client relationship manager could probably do all of that. And I don't really like the whole wrap up and paperwork bit at the end. So maybe the client relationship manager could do that. So I only do the middle 30 minutes of a 90-minute meeting. So now I've got an hour back of my time. I can do 3 times more of those types of meetings in a day than I could do previously. And I'm only doing the bit that I really love. How cool is that? So that's the point. You do this exercise every year, because every year you'll find ways of delegating more and more and more, and refining down and down and down what that 20% is. And every year you can reset that and find a new what the new 20% is and what's the current 20%. And it will evolve over time. When I first started doing this, it was all about me spending time in front of clients, and then gradually it became me about running the business and only spending time with the very top clients. And then when we sold those businesses and created new businesses, again, it was different again. So this will continue to evolve, and it's really important and it's really powerful. It's why it's called the compound, because doing this once is really powerful. Doing this year on year on year is incredibly powerful. I always used to talk about the power of compound growth and how compound growth is that growth on the growth on the growth on the growth of your money. If you're in professional services, you'll understand that. The same applies with this delegation principle. If you can do it time after time after time, it becomes more and more powerful each time. You get the growth on the growth on the growth. So I'm going to give you that. I'll send it to you afterwards. You should, hopefully, by the sounds of things, you've already been sent it in advance of this. But if you haven't, we'll send it to you again afterwards. I just really encourage you to print out that job list. Spend a week just collecting everything so you know exactly all the tasks that you do. Maybe you can do it quicker than that if you've got a good, if you're already using a tool like the Limitless Life Planner, and you can look back and go, I know every task I've done for the last 2 weeks, and then you can maybe just do it looking retrospectively. Get it done, do the Delegate Compound, and honestly, it will have a transformative effect on your business. So let's play catch up as to where we've been. So really, if you want to get time freedom mastery, you want to have that balanced business life, you've got to build that team around you. So a team of people that are better at the other tasks that are outside of that 20% than you are. And that frees you up to go at those 3 flow activities with the intensity to really become world class at them as quickly as possible. That allows you to maximize the impact that you have, and you can also do more of that. You can do more of that by eliminating other things within your business, and that's not just tasks, it's also things like decisions. So I hope this has got you thinking about how you could live a better life, because I would genuinely love you to enjoy the same freedom that I have, and a business that's thriving and growing at 50% year on year, like my business Efficient Portfolio was, whilst you're taking 3 months of every year off, should you want to. But I love taking 3 months of every year off. Like I said, it's happened for over a decade, and there is no way I am going back. So I'd love you to benefit the same way. But what I've been teaching you over the course of this session hasn't just worked for me. It's worked for many, many other people that run particularly professional services firms. So for example, it worked for Bhavesh, and he was able to go from a standing start in the world of finance to massively growing his business really, really quickly, because one of the things that we helped him do was we helped him ideate, create, and publish a book which positions him as the expert in front of his ideal clients in just 3 months. Like I said, it took me 3 years to write my first book, but we showed him how to do this in 3 months. So we've helped lots and lots of financial planners, because obviously that's my background and that's the business, the sector that I know the best. But actually I've helped many, many other businesses as well in many different sectors. So for example, Nitesh, he runs actually a few different companies, but his main business is the Rutland Web Designer. So he builds websites and helps people build out AI solutions. And he's seen exponential growth in his business. But not only that, he actually takes even more time off than I do, I think. He has completely transformed his work-life balance. And then I've helped lots of people in the property space as well. I've helped people like Annie, who works more on the interior design stuff, and she's both grown her business and sorted out her work-life balance through the help we've done. But we've helped many other people in the property space as well, and really helped them build a much more saleable and scalable business. Because what I want you to really think about is, what is not acting costing you? By doing the same thing as you did yesterday, what's that going to cost you in the future? If you do the same today as you did yesterday, you get the same results tomorrow as you got today. So what's the opportunity cost of not taking action? What's the opportunity cost of not fixing the marketing of your business so that it works whether you're working or not. And it, what's the cost of having this feast or famine? Or what's the cost of you being the bottleneck in the business? Or what's the cost of you not have a business that you can step away from and in the future even sell? What is that cost to you? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you an opportunity that can help you solve the biggest problems in your business at the moment and help you stride towards those big goals that you know that you would love to achieve, but you're not quite sure how. Maybe you've hit a bit of a ceiling at the moment. You're not quite sure how to break through that. Well, I'd love to share with you how we can potentially help you. And the first thing I would say is, I've given you hopefully quite a few different ideas over the course of this session, but it's not what we think that people that have huge success do so because they have one brilliant, massive light bulb moment. They come up with one idea that generates 100% growth for their business. It's actually not true. It almost never happens. Actually, what really drives success is a constant flow of 1% gains. Not only is it what tends to happen, it's also much easier. It's much easier to find a constant flow of 1% improvements or 100 1% improvements than it is to find one 100% improvement. And that's what we're all about at the Trusted Team. It's about delivering this constant flow of 1% improvements, and the compound effect of your business growing 1% on top of 1% on top of 1% means that over the course of a period of time, like maybe a year or 3 years, you're going to see exponential growth, not just in the revenue in your business, but in the quality of your life, in the quality of the value that you create for your clients. And that's how we help people. We help you see the way into the future. We help you achieve your goals quicker, more consistently, and with working less rather than working more. But the question you're hopefully asking now is, how do you do that? Well, we have a number of different solutions that allow us to do that. We help people through online coaching, both live and on demand. We help people through group coaching, and that's in-person, in-workshop group coaching. We help people with some one-to-one coaching where we can give them a bespoke path so that they achieve, and help them achieve their goals. And we help people that run bigger businesses that already have a leadership team, and we help that whole leadership team really make smarter decisions on a quarterly basis, and so that they're driving the business forward. So how might we help you? Well, obviously, I don't know exactly what you're going through at this moment in time, but if you're currently in the feast or famine marketing stage where you're thinking, I don't really have enough clients, or I don't have enough of the best clients or of the right clients, and you're finding yourself, like you market for a bit, you get some clients, you therefore stop marketing, and then you finish serving those clients, and suddenly there's a gap in the system, and suddenly there's no clients again, and so it's like feast or famine. You're either super busy or super quiet, and if you're relying exclusively on referrals and you're not quite sure when the next one's coming in or where the next client's coming from, then we can help you, because really what you want to do at that stage is build out this automated marketing machine. And the automated marketing machine is making sure that you have a constant flow of your ideal clients, not any clients, but your ideal clients, whether you're working or not. And we can help you with that. And we do that through an online coaching program called the Professional Marketing Magnet. And this is how professional services firms can really up their marketing game and build out this automated marketing machine that delivers this constant flow of ideal clients. And we do this by guiding them through the Professional Marketing Magnet. It's everything from like proper designed with intention referral process, something we call the referral revolution. It's about building partnerships with other firms that serve your clients that aren't in competition with you, which is something we do called the partnership playbook. We'll show you how to position yourself as the expert in front of your ideal clients, as well as knowing who your ideal clients are and what keeps those ideal clients awake at night. So therefore, what makes them take action. We'll show you how you can integrate AI into your marketing, and we'll show you how you can communicate and articulate what you do so much better than anyone else, so you'll have a queue of ideal clients knocking down your door. So if that's the problem that you're experiencing at the moment, the Professional Marketing Magnet can help you build this constant flow of your ideal clients coming to you, whether you're working or not. But that might not be you at the moment. You might have fixed that problem. You might already have a constant flow of your ideal clients. And maybe at the moment, you're kind of running the business and you're suffering from what I term entrepreneurial loneliness, which is, you're at the top of the business, but you've got different problems in the business. You don't really want to go home and spend the evenings talking to your other half or your children about the problems you've got in your business. You can't really talk to your team about the problems, and your mates down the pub don't really relate to the problems you're experiencing either, because it can be a really lonely place being a business owner. So maybe that's part of the problem. Also, possibly at the moment, you are the biggest bottleneck in this business, and you have a business that you couldn't sell because it's reliant on you, and every decision goes through you, or at least most go through you, and maybe every new client goes through you, and therefore you are the biggest bottleneck in the business. So if that's you and you're suffering from entrepreneurial loneliness and you are the founder bottleneck, then probably the way we can help you is slightly different, because we can help you build a saleable and scalable business, a business that grows whether you're there or not, and a business that in the future, if you want to sell it, you have the choice to sell it. You'll have people wanting to buy it because it's a business that grows whether you're there or not. And we do that through our group coaching workshops. And because what we find is that when group coaching is delivered well, you should learn as much from the other people in the room as you learn from the person at the front of the room. So we do these group mastermind sessions, typically groups of about 20 people, and so that what you're doing is you're all running businesses of different shapes and sizes, but going through the same type of problems. And so what you can do is you can work on a strategy. Let's call it, maybe it's the referral revolution, or maybe it's something to do with AI, or whether it's something to do with building a scalable business or a team. But you'll be working on at the same time on that concept with other people that are also working on that same problem. And then you can share the best ideas, as well as what I can teach you. You can share what you're going to do with other people in the room, which creates brilliant learning, accelerates the learning, but also it helps you build accountability of what you're going to do. But most importantly, it also means that you leave with the actions already kind of decided and built and a plan formulated. It's not just a teaching exercise, it's a proper workshop. When you bring people together and get them working on the same concepts at the same time, magic tends to happen, because as Steve Jobs would have said, ideas have sex. And the way that we do this is we guide people through in what we call the Founder Accelerator or the Planner Accelerator. If it's just for financial advisors, we guide people through what we call the Better Future Framework. And this is really about, yes, we help you build out the automated marketing machine, as I've already shared, but we'll help you create founder magnification. So when you do something once, it helps many people, as opposed to doing something once and it helping one person. We'll help you build outstanding operations. So backstage, the bits that the clients don't see is operating super smoothly and accelerating in terms of quality and growth. We'll help you get back your time so that you can either focus more inside the business on the bits that you love and drive the growth forward that way, or you can take more time out of the business to spend time with the people that you care most about, or doing the hobbies that you love the most. We'll breed this constant innovation, so you'll be constantly coming up with new ideas to improve the business and grow the business and your work-life balance. And we'll do so by setting out this incredible foundation of goals, because goals for your business, goals for you, not just business goals, but personal goals, that is the key to celebrating, creating success. So we drive you through this group workshops that will really help you move the business forward. So the workshops happen every quarter, plus an extra one at the end of the year to set those goals and start the new year on an amazing platform. And really the difference between kind of what we do and what you'll see in a lot of courses is that we're focusing on the implementation gap, not the knowledge gap. Now, we're obviously going to teach you stuff, some of which you'll know, some of which you don't know, but we don't live in a knowledge gap society, particularly in a world driven by AI. We are not short of knowledge. You know, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Claude, you've got whatever it is, you've got an abundance of knowledge. In fact, you've almost got too much knowledge. The benefit of having a workshop is it's actually filling the implementation gap. So yes, you're going to learn some concepts around how you can make your business better, but then most importantly, you're going to spend time actually working on that idea so that when you leave the workshop, you've already got an action plan. Plus, you're going to share it with some other founders so that you can see what their good look like. You get ideas and feedback on what you've come up with and accountability going forward. So that's the group workshops. And now, if you want to build a business that will grow and build and solve that entrepreneurial loneliness piece and remove yourself as the bottleneck in the business, that is the best way that we can help you. And then for certain people within that, where we're coaching you in the group environment, we also offer some one-to-one coaching. And this is where, if you need some one-to-one time with me regularly to really kind of focus your attention on what you want to achieve, you might have a specific goal that you know I can help you with. For example, it might be selling your business in 3 years' time, or you might be a financial planner that knows that my expertise and experience in that sector is really going to push you forward even quicker. We also do some one-to-one coaching that can help you there. And then for bigger businesses that already have a leadership team in place, we can essentially do that one-to-one coaching, but on a quarterly basis with the leadership team. So it's a whole day, a quarter. So if you think one of those solutions is going to drive your business forward and help you maximize your opportunities, minimize the things that are concerning you, help you achieve those goals that are really important, the best thing you can do is just to book a conversation with me. It's a strategy call to understand where you're at the moment, what's working, what's not working, where you want to get to in the future, and then we can understand whether one of the solutions that we have available at the trusted team is going to be able to help you. And you can book that strategy call. By the way, it's completely free of charge. Book that strategy call with me on this by scanning this QR code here. If you book that session, then we'll be able to jump on, and I'll be able to sort of spend some time with you understanding where you're at the moment, where you want to be in the future, what's stopping you getting there, and we'll be able to work out which if we can help you, I'll be able to tell you which journey within the trusted team can help you the most. So if you want to make tomorrow better than today, if you want to achieve those goals that are important to you, if you want to build a saleable and scalable business, if you want to build an automated marketing machine, if you want to remove yourself as the founder bottleneck, and if you want to solve the problem of entrepreneurial loneliness, then book a time slot with me. Book a strategy call. We'll understand a bit more about where you're at. I'll give you the experience and wisdom I can give you in the time that we have together. And then if we think we can help you, I'd be delighted to share with you what that would look like. So scan the QR code, book that strategy call, because remember, if you do the same today as you did yesterday, you'll get the same results tomorrow as you got today. It's only when we take action that we see change and we see the results coming. You know, there's lots of people that came, do you know what? 9 people came up with the idea of a cyclone vacuum cleaner and applied for a patent for a cyclone vacuum cleaner before James Dyson. But 9 people didn't become a billionaire from that idea. Only one person took action. Only one person actually became a billionaire on that idea. So you've got to take action if you want to see change. So scan the QR code, book some time in. I'd love to chat to you, and good luck on your journey. I'll see you on the strategy call.